The millionaire stood silent in the hospital room as machines beeped around his dying daughter. He had paid a poor woman to pretend she was his wife. No love, no feelings, just a contract. But when the little girl suddenly whispered, "Please don't leave me, Mama," the millionaire felt his heart break for the first time. That word was never part of the deal, and what happened next changed everything. The hospital room was too quiet. Machines blinked softly. A small hand rested on a white sheet. The little girl did not open her eyes, but her lips moved. "Are you leaving too, Mama?" Sarah froze. The word hit her like a slap and a hug at the same time. She had never been called that before, not once in her life, not by blood, not by promise, not by right. Behind her, a tall man in an expensive suit turned away, his face hard, his jaw tight. He did not cry. He did not speak. And that was the moment everything broke. But to understand how they ended up in this room, we must go back 3 months earlier, to a deal that was never supposed to feel like this. 3 months earlier, Sarah Hale lived a small life, not sad, not dramatic, just small. She woke up early every morning. She made tea with too much sugar. She cleaned houses for people who barely noticed her name. In the evenings, she came home to a quiet room and folded her clothes slowly, as if time itself needed care. She had lost her husband 5 years ago. A road accident, one phone call, one sentence that split her life into before and after. Since then, she learned how to survive without asking the world for too much. So when a black car stopped outside her building, she thought it was a mistake. When the man inside asked for her by name, she almost said no. Daniel Cross. Daniel Cross did not believe in wasting time. He was rich, very rich. But people did not admire him for his money. They feared him for his control. His companies ran like machines. His words cut like clean knives. He had one problem money could not fix: image. A major business deal depended on him appearing stable, respectable, a family man. Investors wanted trust. They wanted tradition. And Daniel Cross was a widower with a daughter. Or at least, that was the story. The truth was quieter and more painful, but truth was not part of the deal. The offer they met in his office, glass walls, cold light, everything smelled expensive. Daniel did not waste words. "I need a wife," he said calmly. "For 3 months." Sarah blinked. "I'm sorry. What?" "A legal marriage, public appearances, social events, nothing more." She stood up. "I think you called the wrong person." He slid a folder across the table. Inside were numbers that made her breath stop. Enough money to clear her debts, enough to secure her niece's education, enough to finally breathe. "There will be rules," Daniel said. She sat back down. The rules. No love, no emotional involvement, no parenting decisions regarding his child. Separate bedrooms. The contract ends after 3 months. No extensions. Sarah read every line twice. "And your daughter?" she asked quietly. Daniel paused for half a second. Just half. "She already has a mother," he said. "She just isn't here anymore." Sarah signed. Her hand shook, but she signed. That night she cried, not because she felt dirty, but because she felt invisible. The mansion. The house was too big, too clean, too silent. Sarah felt like her footsteps did not belong there. The staff called her Madam with polite distance. Daniel barely spoke to her unless there were cameras nearby. And then there was Lily, 8 years old, thin, quiet, eyes too old for her face. Lily watched Sarah like a puzzle she was afraid to touch. At dinner, Lily pushed food around her plate. "Do you like the soup?" Sarah asked gently. Lily shrugged. Daniel glanced up. "You don't need to talk to her during meals," he said. Sarah nodded, but later that night she noticed the soup untouched, so she warmed it again and knocked softly on Lily's door. "Just soup," she whispered. Lily looked at her. "You won't stay," she said. It wasn't a question. Sarah swallowed. "I'm here right now." That was enough. Days passed. Public smiles, charity events, business dinners. Daniel played the perfect husband. Sarah followed the script, but behind closed doors, Lily followed Sarah. She asked small things. "Can you read to me? Can you braid hair? Can you sit here?" Sarah tried to keep distance. She failed. One night, Lily woke screaming from a dream. The staff froze. Daniel stood in the hallway, unsure what to do. Sarah walked in without thinking. She sat on the bed, held Lily, said nothing. The crying stopped. Daniel watched from the door, something uncomfortable moving in his chest. The next morning he warned her, "You're crossing the line." Sarah looked at him calmly. "She's a child," she said, "not a clause." The beginning of trouble. Lily started getting tired. She slept more, ate less, smiled rarely. Daniel noticed late. Sarah noticed early. "She needs a doctor," Sarah said. "She's always been weak," Daniel replied. One afternoon, Lily fainted at school. The call came during a board meeting. Daniel stood up mid-sentence and walked out. At the hospital, doctors spoke carefully. Tests were ordered. Words like stress and complications floated in the air. Daniel paid for everything, but money did not bring answers. That night, Sarah stayed by Lily's bed. She held her small hand and whispered stories. Lily opened her eyes just once. "Don't leave," she said. Sarah felt something tear inside her. In the hallway, Daniel stood alone. He had built empires, controlled markets, bent people to his will, but a quiet hospital room made him feel powerless. Inside, Sarah whispered a prayer she had not spoken in years, and somewhere between contracts and promises, between pretending and truth, something real had begun, something no one had planned for, because the contract never explained what to do when a child starts calling you Mama. The hospital became their second home. Days blurred into nights. Lights stayed on even when hope felt dim. Nurses changed shifts. Doctors spoke in careful voices. Machines hummed like quiet prayers that never stopped. Lily did not wake up. She breathed. She moved slightly, but her eyes stayed closed, as if the world outside was too heavy to face. Daniel paid for everything: private rooms, special scans, the best doctor's money could bring. He made phone calls at midnight, flew in specialists from other cities, signed papers without reading them. But nothing changed. Each day the doctors used softer words. "She is stable. We are monitoring her. We need more time." Time. It was the one thing Daniel had always controlled. Now it refused to listen. Sarah stayed. She slept on a chair, ate hospital food without complaining, spoke to Lily even when there was no response. She brushed her hair, read her stories, held her hand like it mattered, because to Sarah it did. One night, Sarah noticed Lily's fingers move when she spoke about simple things, about sunshine, about the smell of bread in the morning, about how brave people can be without knowing it. The machines did not change, but Lily's face softened. Sarah prayed quietly, not for miracles, just for strength. Daniel watched from a distance. He told himself this was temporary, that once Lily recovered, everything would go back to normal. The deal would end. Life would continue. But the silence in Lily's room was louder than any boardroom. He had never been good at hospitals. They smelled like waiting, like fear, like things he could not buy his way out of. One evening, a doctor finally sat him down. "We believe her condition is connected to prolonged emotional stress," the doctor said carefully. "Children carry pain differently, especially grief." Daniel frowned. "She has everything she needs." The doctor met his eyes. "Sometimes children need something money cannot provide." Daniel said nothing. Sarah overheard part of the conversation. She knew that kind of pain. She had lived it after her husband died, the way the world kept moving while your heart stayed still. That night, she sat beside Lily and whispered, "You don't have to be strong here." A tear slipped from Lily's closed eye. Sarah's heart broke quietly. Daniel began avoiding the mansion. It felt empty now, too quiet, too big. He stayed late at the hospital, sitting stiffly in a chair, unsure what to do with his hands. He did not know how to talk to his daughter like Sarah did. He did not know how to comfort without fixing. One evening he walked into the hospital chapel without realizing it. The room was small, simple, wooden benches, soft light. Daniel sat down. For the first time in years, no one was watching him, no cameras, no investors, no expectations, just a man and his fear. He closed his eyes. "I don't know how to do this," he whispered. The words surprised him. He had never admitted weakness out loud. Sarah met an elderly cleaner in the hallway the next morning. The woman smiled gently as she wiped the floor. "You're the one who talks to the little girl," the woman said. Sarah nodded. "She listens," the woman continued, "even when she can't speak." Sarah swallowed. The woman leaned closer and said softly, "Children don't need perfect parents. They need present ones." Then she walked away. The words stayed. The doctors tried a new treatment. It helped a little, then stopped. Lily's fever returned. Her breathing became shallow. Daniel stood at the foot of the bed, helpless. Sarah felt panic rise, but she stayed calm. She leaned close to Lily's ear. "We're here," she whispered. "You don't have to be afraid." Daniel watched. Something twisted inside him. Later that night, he confronted Sarah in the hallway. "This is getting complicated," he said. Sarah looked tired, but steady. "It was always complicated," she replied. "You're getting too involved." Sarah's voice trembled for the first time. "She already is." Daniel's face hardened. This was a contract. Sarah nodded slowly. "Yes, and that's why I need to leave." The words shocked him. "What?" "I can't pretend anymore," she said. "Not with her. Not with myself." She pulled an envelope from her bag. "The money. I don't want it." Daniel stared at her like she was insane. "You signed an agreement." "I came for the money," she said quietly. "But I stayed for her." Silence fell between them. "You're betraying the deal," Daniel snapped. Sarah shook her head. "No, I'm telling the truth." She turned and walked back into Lily's room. That night, Sarah packed her things. No one stopped her. She went to Lily's bedside one last time. "I love you," she whispered, even though it wasn't aloud. "I always will." Lily did not wake up, but her fingers tightened around Sarah's hand. Sarah let go. She walked out of the hospital with tears blurring her vision. Hours later, Daniel sat alone by Lily's bed. The room felt colder without Sarah. Suddenly, Lily stirred. Her lips moved. "Don't go, Mama." Daniel froze. The word echoed in his chest. Mama. She wasn't dreaming of doctors, or medicine, or money. She was calling for the one person who had stayed. Daniel's control shattered. He sank to his knees beside the bed. "I failed you," he whispered. "I thought providing was enough." His hand shook. "I was wrong." For the first time in his life, Daniel Cross understood something simple and painful. Love could not be scheduled, care could not be outsourced, and a child's heart could not survive on silence. The next morning, Daniel canceled a board meeting, then another. Investors were furious. Calls went unanswered. For once, he did not care. He sat beside Lily all day. He read to her awkwardly, held her hand, talked about things that mattered, apologized to a child who could not answer. And slowly, very slowly, Lily's breathing steadied. The doctors noticed a small change, not a miracle, just a beginning. Far away, Sarah sat in her small room and cried into her pillow. She had done the hardest thing she knew. She had loved without permission. She had walked away without certainty. She whispered one last prayer. "Please, take care of her." Back in the hospital, Daniel looked at his sleeping daughter and finally understood the cost of his pride. For the first time in his life, Daniel Cross knew this truth. You can control businesses, you can buy solutions, but love only grows when you stop pretending. And somewhere between loss and honesty, a father was being born. The mansion felt different without her. It was still large, still perfect, still quiet. But now the silence felt heavy, not peaceful. Daniel stood alone in the kitchen, staring at a pan on the stove. He had never cooked before. He didn't even know how much oil to use. The smell was wrong. The eggs burned. He turned off the stove and sighed. Upstairs, Lily slept. She was still weak, still fragile, but she was alive, and that was something Daniel no longer took for granted. He sat by her bed every morning now. He brushed her hair clumsily. He read aloud, even when his voice shook. He canceled meetings without explanation. His phone rang until it went silent. For the first time, Daniel Cross chose a child over a contract. The doctors noticed small changes. Lily's heart rate became steadier. Her appetite returned slowly. She opened her eyes for longer each day. One doctor explained it carefully. When children feel safe, their bodies respond, he said. Stress can weaken them. Love can help heal. It wasn't magic. It was biology. It was psychology. It was the quiet power of care. Daniel listened like a student hearing the truth for the first time. One afternoon, Lily asked a question that stopped him cold. "Did I do something wrong?" she whispered. Daniel leaned closer. "No, never." "Then why did Mama leave?" The word hurt, but he didn't correct her. "She didn't leave because of you," he said slowly. "She left because she loved you enough to be honest." Lily thought about that. "She'll come back," she said. Daniel swallowed. "I hope so." Sarah returned to her old routine, cleaning houses, counting coins, sleeping on a thin mattress. But something inside her had changed. She had touched a life and been changed in return. She missed Lily every hour. She missed the way Lily smiled when she read stories. She missed the quiet trust in her eyes. Some nights, Sarah wondered if she had made a mistake. But then she remembered Lily's grip on her hand, and she knew she had done the only thing love allows. She had chosen truth. The business deal collapsed. Investors pulled out. Headlines turned cold. Daniel's board demanded answers. He gave them one. "I choose my daughter," he said. They called it emotional weakness. He called it growth. For the first time, Daniel Cross slept without fear of losing control, because he had already let go. Lily's recovery continued, slow, careful, real. One morning she sat up on her own. "I want to go home," she said. The word home meant something different now. That afternoon, Daniel did something he had never done before. He drove himself. No driver, no assistant. He stood outside Sarah's building, unsure for the first time in his life. He knocked. Sarah opened the door. They stared at each other. No scripts, no contract, no deal, just two tired people holding the same love in different ways. "I was wrong," Daniel said. Sarah waited. "I hired you to pretend," he continued, "but you taught me what's real." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't want a contract," he said. "I don't want control." He took a breath. "I want honesty, and if you say no, I will understand." Sarah looked at him for a long time. Then she asked one question. "How is Lily?" Daniel smiled through tears. "She's waiting for you." The reunion was quiet. No music, no drama, just a small hospital room filled with light. Lily saw Sarah and reached out. "Mama," she whispered. Sarah held her, and this time she didn't pull away. Daniel stood nearby, not outside the moment, but inside it. For the first time they were a family without pretending. Lily was discharged weeks later. The mansion felt warmer now. Laughing returned. Mistakes were allowed. Love was visible. Daniel worked less, listened more. Sarah stayed, not because she was paid, but because she chose to. One evening, Lily sat between them on the couch. "Are you real married now?" she asked. Daniel smiled. "We're real people now. That's better." Sarah laughed softly. Months later, there was no big wedding, just a simple promise. No papers at first, because love didn't need proof. The narrator's voice closes softly. Some people enter your life as a solution. Others become your salvation. You can rent a role, but you can't rent a heart. And sometimes the family you choose is the one that heals you the most.